Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartley back with you today with another episode of the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I am joined by ultra runner Chelle White. This lady is doing some incredible work, not only with ultra running, but also with fundraising and raising awareness as well. Now, most people listening to this will know, but anybody who doesn't know, we're talking about foot races today, 100 miles, 200 miles. Technically, an ultra is anything over the marathon distance, but these people take it to absolutely incredible extremes. Shell has some incredible accolades under her belt, including recently the Wild Horse 200. I was going to say 100 then, but 200 miles, absolutely incredible achievement and a lot more. So we'll be talking today, as always, not only about running and the physicality, but the mindset as well that it takes to succeed, reach such a high level in one of the toughest sports in the world, what drives Shell to do this, and some lessons that you, the audience, can take away from this for motivation, health, happiness, fulfillment, all those good type of things, and inspiration, of course. So, Shell, thank you. As I've already said, thank you so much for making the time for this, and it's great to be talking with you today.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. Like I've already said, I've seen some of the coverage of some of your races. I've seen some of the fundraising. I've seen bits and pieces, and I thought, you know what, this is a great story that needs to be told. So there we are. Now, as I mentioned, we'll in a minute we'll go back in time and we'll talk about in a minute. See, that's very well. You see, some of the habits haven't left yet, not yet. But anyway, shortly we'll go back in time and we'll talk about why you started running. But I just would like to briefly, before we do that, talk about the Wild Horse 200, a very recent achievement, an incredible achievement. And really, rather than having some very narrow question about this, some of your takeaways from the event, some of your favorite moments of the event. Let's start there, please, Shell. That would be lovely.
Okay. It was I entered it because I had the plan of an FKT of the Welsh Coast Path. Um, and I thought it'd be a good race to do or an event to do to gauge where I was in my training for the FKT. Um, the only problem is my navigation skills are non-existent. I couldn't find myself out of a paper bag. Do you know, and that's my anxiety. So I was very cautious, but also quite excited because it'd be the longest race I'd ever ran. Um, and I just started trail running with a friend that I'd met in Wales. On a bit of a jolly and quite enjoyed it because it was you get to walk. You get to walk. The road running demolished me mentally. Is you have to keep running, and people expect you get to a checkpoint and you're expected to run in, and if people see you walking, they wonder if there's a problem. But on trails and ultras, you can walk and you can eat and you can drink, and it's amazing. Um, I had some really cool sort of like outings up on Penny Fan, on all the fans. I've just been incredibly lucky to have a friend that, lived in the area that, would, take me out on these crazy adventures. And also sort of help me try to navigate. I navigate by I can't see my vision isn't great, so I can't use the map on my watch. The map on a handheld I can't see very well. So I like to recce, and then I can remember things by certain things, like a stone that looked like an animal or a tree that, I found amazing, and I'd always find that tree. So it's kind of how I done it. But over 200 miles, I knew there's going to be bits I'm not going to remember, and in the dark they are non-existent, etc. But I knew it would be a good challenge for myself, something that makes me get my big girl pants on, pull them up, and get it done. Um, and I like the ethos. That Reese created. It's an event, not a race. It's a get it done event. The cut-offs were generous. They even done run camps. So you could do a part of the area and have chats from previous winners and foot care and everything. It was is really good, and I think it's something that is needed for that kind of race, especially if you're new. or worried or anxious about it like I was. I made many a phone call to Reese. Even on the race, I made one saying, "I'm lost. Where am I?" But yeah, I was in a bit of a meltdown. But the experience is and was amazing. I got to meet so many amazing people. And my favorite bit with an ultra run is you have time for those people. If you're racing a race on the road, you don't have time for people. Or the end goal is just you just got to keep getting there to the end and everything else. But on an ultra, you can have a chat at a checkpoint, you can have a hug at a checkpoint with all the volunteers there. It's amazing. And you get to learn people's whys and the whys behind why they run. Some of them are just amazing and so inspirational, and and that's the bit I enjoy, and that's the bit that keeps me going. My whys, I suppose. Um, but people are incredible, and you know, I just love it. But saying that, that's probably my last trail race, due to getting lost so many times, and being really anxious. My anxiety levels were through the roof. I don't think any race that I have to navigate myself, I will be able to do again, purely because I struggled with that. Um, trying to carry reading glasses with you everywhere you run isn't something. It's a pain. I lost a pair actually, so it's and then am I reading this right? And then the self doubt is not great, but I don't know. You got to push through it. I know, but like I said, I'm going back to road running, and I will still do off road, but probably not as events that aren't marked out with flags and everything glowing and everything else. But
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, that is fair enough. The navigation side of things, we'll get into that more later on probably, but it is a very wild part of the event. I mean, of these type of events. Now, the wild horse, that's Reece Jenkins, isn't it? That you're
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I interviewed him a few months ago, actually. Incredible individual. Big shout out to Reece Jenkins, very inspirational guy. Just to get that in there. So, okay, so that's the Wild Horse. I mean, it starts people off with something exciting. It starts this off, gets things warmed up. It's a great description, because this is the thing. People can read about the race, people can find out more about it online. Other runners will know about this sort of stuff, but people don't see what was going on in your mind, what you were experiencing and things. And that's what people want to know, really. So that's why I kind of put you on the spot of like, what did you experience? Because, you never know what's going to come back from that. For one person, it's getting lost. For another person, it's the weather. I mean, it's different things that people have to deal with. Um, Before we go back in time, a race like that, how long is it generally for? I mean, I know obviously this separates into the winners and the mid pack and all this sort of stuff. But generally speaking, I mean, how long is 200 miles just for anyone who doesn't know?
what by foot you mean?
Yeah, not by
um,
car, not by, I mean, that's not too bad, but by foot, yeah. Because I
do you know
speak
what?
and they're
Oh,
like 48 hours and, I mean, crazy amount, 24-hour races, obviously. But I mean, this thing about going through the night, I mean, again, other ultra runners will know, but for anyone that's new to this, the whole, not sleeping and all that sort of stuff is pretty crazy. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about that, please, and then we'll go back in time.
yeah. So it took me 68 hours. 68 hours. Yeah, I didn't sleep for the first night. Um, I am a night worker, so like come the evening, everyone's body's saying it's time for bed. Mine's wide awake. I got into the nighttime checkpoint where everyone could sleep, and I was like a child on Smarties because I'm at my time, my peak. So even though I was very downtrodden because of I got lost 4 times before the first checkpoint. I'd already added, I think, 5 miles on before that first checkpoint where I'd gone wrong so many times. Luckily, by the 67-mile checkpoint, which is checkpoint two, I believe, or was it 2 or 3? I can't remember. My friend came to meet me and ran with me through the night, so I didn't have to navigate. I was, with someone who knew the way, knew the course. So I was quite lucky in that respect. Um, I never, so on my long distances, I never count the mileage. I always count the checkpoints. Checkpoints are normally in single figures. So there's 9 checkpoints. So when I got to the first one, there's only 8 to go. When you're into the next one, there's 7 to go. And if you looked at that in miles, it would blow your mind and probably start the little negatives coming in and oh my goodness, then you start looking at single miles. And so I find the checkpoints are really good. And they're really good markers because you get there, you get a hug, you get a drink, you get food, you get a pat on the back, reassurance. And that's the things to count. And so it's a positive thing to count if you get my drift. So there isn't that negative, oh my gosh, I still got 170 miles to go. I still got 150 miles to go. So come the sort of last checkpoint, it's like I've got no more checkpoints. And it's such an amazing feeling. I think throughout the whole race, I had about an hour and 10 minutes sleep. I my goodness. I think I looked at my Strava and I stopped for about 2 hours total, as in whether that's with the other checkpoints, I'm not really sure. And I'm not really 100% sure how accurate it is. Um, and I try not to see things as a race anymore. I used to when I was running road, and it did affect me quite badly because you're never there, if you know what I mean. You will always want to be better. With trail, you just want to get to the finish. Um, but yeah, it was tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't easy, not by a long shot, but I just broke it down into checkpoints and logic. So my logic for me was okay. So I've looked at this logically. I can walk this 3 miles an hour. Everyone walks around 3 miles an hour. If you're really trekking it, especially on some of the mountains and hills, 3 miles an hour is good. So I thought, well, then add if I did sleep 4 hours on each of those sleep points, that'd be another 12 hours. So that's like 84 hours. And then a couple of hours for the other checkpoints because I'm an in and out kind of checkpoint person. I don't like to sort of sit down because my joints seize up because I have rheumatoid arthritis. So they seize up a little bit. So I just like to keep moving as such. Um, so logically, I thought, a good thing for me would be 84. If I can get below 84, I would be really happy. And as it progressed, I then realized actually I've not had no sleep. I am sort of averaging sort of 4-ish. And I know that's going to get slower over certain points in certain areas. Luckily there is a few road bits in it. So I did manage to get a little bit faster. I can run sort of on the roads. But I mean, by the end, I was very tired and I did have kind of hallucinations. That's the time when I took my first sleep. Because the guy I was running with, I ran with from checkpoint 4 onwards, another runner. We were going through the stony bits and he suddenly said, I think next checkpoint we need to sleep because I'm seeing the stones are looking weird. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad you said that because they are looking weird for me to do. To be honest, they look like pandas. I don't know why they look like black and white pandas. And you can imagine by the caving centre, there are hundreds of stones. No, there was hundreds of pandas. So the decision to sleep, we had to because we were just both done. But I slept for about an hour on that one, but the 10, 15 minute sleep I had before that was just the same. I felt the same for that as I did the hour. And I think I just so desperately wanted just to get it done and get home because it rained for the first 2 days. I just I just kept going. And then when I got to the last checkpoint, I realised someone had mentioned the female record. So I then realised I can do this. And it just got a big spurt on. I had a friend come buddy run with us on from checkpoint 7 and like she was full on, come on, and it was amazing. And she was an incredible help to me and the guy that I was running with. He's like, oh, she's staying with us the whole time. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, fantastic. It's just such a thing for someone to pull you through and be so positive, even though we were both like really struggling, really tired. Feet, my feet were okay, as in respect, I had no blisters, no nothing. But they were sore, all the stones you're walking over, they just had enough really. And they were swollen, very swollen. But it was an amazing experience. And you can walk it. I've proved, I did run parts of it. I'm not going to lie, I did run parts of it. But if you look at things logically, Reese has a really, really generous cutoff on all his races, which is fantastic. And no person is left out. They will do their utmost to get you to that finish. So if you're ever thinking about anything like this, just break it down logically. Can you walk this in this? And if you can, you will. And I think sometimes to have that in your mind, knowing that you can do it, even if it means you're not going to do it fast, is mentally is a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, first of all, there's some great life lessons in there, Shell. I mean, that people can apply to different areas of life. But I'm just taking it all in. I mean, no matter how many times I hear it, 68 hours and pandas and all of this type of stuff, the hallucinations are fascinating. I mean, I have heard people say they've seen faces in the puddles, they've seen things coming out, and then all sorts of stuff. And I think, okay, so just when you think you've heard it all, you get into the hallucinations. But no, I love it. I love the inspirational side of what you said there, how you break it down, and some of those amazing topics, which we'll come back to. Now, as I said, flipping this on its head, going back in time for a moment, because we've started with something quite recent. I'd like to touch on how you started with all of this, but also from the perspective of what your expectations were in the beginning, in terms of, I have met people who said, I want to run an ultra and that's what I want to do, and I'm aiming for that straight away. But most people build up for it and they run a marathon or they run a half marathon, they do various things, and they think, I wonder if I can take it a bit further, a bit further. And for you, from that point of view of expectations, if you get what I mean with this, from the beginning of where you started to how far you've come with it now and
Yeah.
the mindset, let's talk about that a little bit, please, as well.
Yeah. Okay. So mine started. I was a carer years ago and looked after a young gentleman um, within his family home. His mum got diagnosed with lung cancer. Obviously, was and it was terminal, unfortunately. She'd be leaving behind this young man and two very young sisters. Now, when she passed, they wanted to do Race for Life, the 5K Race for Life. Now, at that time, it was female only based, and it had a rule if they were under 12, they had to run with an adult. Now, that adult had to be a female. So obviously, mum wasn't there. And I agreed to do it. I didn't mind it, it's for a good cause as well. So I ran with this young girl, absolutely beautiful, lovely, amazing, clever young girl. Um, and we done the 5K. Quite enjoyed it, but not enough to take it up. Now, unfortunately, almost a year later, my mum then passed of lung cancer. So me and my daughter decided to do the 10K for my sins, Race for Life. We ran it and I thought, you know what, actually, it's quite good. Mentally, it made me feel good. Obviously, I ran it about 4 or 5 months after my mum had passed, and my dad had come up and we had t-shirts with mum on and stuff. And it became my why. So as hard as it's my why. On at my mum's funeral, it's not morbid. My mum's funeral, I done a eulogy. My dad struggled along with my sister, so I had to, we all struggled. But I'm, someone, I had to do it, and I said something, and it still resonates with me now, and it is as as a child, we always strive to make our parents proud. And no matter your upbringing or anything, that's who you strive first and foremost to make proud. But when you become a parent, as a parent, you strive to make your children proud of you. So like as you know, so I said like I'm proud of my mum, and like now as a parent, I know my kids strive to make me proud, but I always strive to make them proud. So that's another why for me. And I just build these whys, and that's when I get more extreme. um, but yeah, I then so that drove me to like I'd always entered London ballot, never trained, never got in luckily because I would have never have done it. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get in this year. So I started training properly. Um, and trust me, I couldn't even run a mile. When I say this, I could not run a mile. I was in a gym on a treadmill, and before the mile, I was done. And it wasn't until a lovely lady asked me what I was doing, said, I'm training for London Marathon if I get in. I'm going to do a half marathon before. And she's like, but what are you doing? I'm like trying to run. And I said, I can't even run a mile. How am I going to do this? And she's like, right, walk. I'm like, what? So I said, walk as fast as you can on a treadmill. So I'm walking as fast as I can. She said, now run. So as I just went to turn up that button to run, it's like, no, 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 run at that speed. So I ran that speed and I ran a mile. And then I ran 2 miles. So she said, you need to do your distance before your speed. And that was massive to me because then I didn't feel that need to run fast. I ran comfortable. Obviously, as time progressed, I did run fast. I unfortunately just before I think about 3, 4 months after into training, I was really struggling with my joints and chronic fatigue. To the point, I was waking up in the morning, and if I slept in a fetal position, I was struggling to get out of that fetal position. My knees kept giving way. I was like, something's wrong. And then people were saying overtraining. I went to a doctor, oh, you're a runner, that's what you got to expect, blah, blah, blah. And when something's just not right, I was unfit, I'm not gonna lie, but to the pain I felt, the only way I can describe it is so someone's put a hot poker in my joint. They were on fire. So I went back to the doctor and seen a new GP who, had to have someone there to make sure she was doing it right. She's just newly qualified. She says, I think I know what you've got from all what I said. And I'm like, okay. She said, but I'm not going to say anything. I want to do the blood test because it's a simple blood test and it will prove it. She said, I don't want to worry you unnecessarily. She said, but as soon as I get them, I'll call you and get you back in. I'm like, so a couple of days later, she phoned me up and said, the results are in. And I said, it is what I thought. And you do have rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm like, what? I'm like, gosh, that's an old person. She's like, no, it's rheumatoid arthritis, which is an immune system problem. I'm like, okay, so am I going to? She's like, we can treat it, we can't cure it, but we can treat it. So can you come in tomorrow? So I got in, I got referred really, really quickly. Um, got on the meds, which as it's an immune problem, so the only way they can resolve it is to give you immune suppressants, which is chemo. So I was on low dose chemo, continued my running. Fortunately, I was able to run, um, not without the pain, but I was able to run. I ran my first half marathon in the September, and I did struggle, but I got there, and I thought, you know what, I can do this, and I ran another half marathon the following week. Um, so crazy. That feeling, knowing, I thought something that would stop me has made me stronger. Um, because I didn't want to be defined by an illness. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it made me stronger. As much as it hasn't defined me, it has defined my strong nature, I suppose. Um, Now I didn't get into London, so I did book 2 marathons. I booked Brighton Marathon and Milton Keynes. But in between the halves and that, I kept getting some quite severe pain in my hips. It almost felt like my hip kept going out of joint, and they kept saying, "Oh, it's your RA, it's your RA." If you've got anything else, they'll just blame it on that. And it kept going on and on and on. Now I'd done Brighton Marathon, started off fantastic, and all of a sudden it felt like my hip went out of joint, and I had to walk the rest. Hubby met me with some painkillers, and I just walked the rest. Um, got back, went to the hospital, nothing wrong. They'd done X-rays, and then my RA nurse phoned me up and said, "Look, we've seen you've had quite a few visits. What's the problem?" With that, they got me up for an MRI. And unfortunately, I had a crack in my pelvis, front and back, and a stress fracture on my femur, on the ball joint. And little did I know, no one really told me, and I think it's something you should be told, that on chemo it thins your bones. So the amount of running I was doing caused stress fractures that I didn't know. Well, I obviously did know because I felt it, and I kept saying, I don't think it's RA because it's not the same pain. Was causing more and more damage, and the cracks were getting, yeah. So I had to stop running for 18 months. I decided to stop the medication because the quality of life, I mean, I don't know how people, when they are on full dose chemo for cancer and I think, my hat's off to them. I am in total awe of them. I was only on low dose. Yeah, I injected myself once a week, but that constant feeling of feeling sick, feeling rubbish, I, I just felt awful. My quality of life was terrible. I worked, I slept. My husband would wake me up to eat, to drink. And I made the decision then to stop the medication. And I felt better from that. Obviously, the pain, but then I started to run. And my first run, I said, I'm just going to go out. I bought a new pair of trainers. They were so cool, these really, really cushioned ones. I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to try and see what impact it has on my joints. I said, Abby, I'm only going for a quick run. So, like, just over an hour later, I'm home. And he's like, I knew it wasn't going to be a quick run. I did 8 miles and I felt great. And I kept running and I kept running. And I had one doctor tell me off, saying I'm going to be causing damage. And then I had another doctor saying, well, running lowers your immune system. So you're lowering your immune system naturally. So fair play to you. If you can do it, carry on. And I did. Um, I finally got into London because I'd done a good for age marathon. I done my first good for age marathon was 3 hours 44. And then I become my final one was when I was 15, that was 3 hours 16. The pressures of running road or in a race per se affected me massively mentally. Um, the constant, if you don't do well, the questions from other people as well as myself. Um, it and and I no longer enjoyed the competition side of it. I find it quite brutal. Some people were quite brutal, with when you're doing well, and even more brutal when you're not doing well. So I sort of pulled away from that a little bit, and that's how I'd done an ultra once. It was just loops. I was supposed to do a race and it got cancelled, so I found another one sort of ad hoc, out of the blue, entered it, not having a clue. I was only a marathon runner. And just kept doing these loops and came second female. And I was like, wow, this is okay. I'm okay. And I've done Reading Endure, come second female there. Done Reading Endure again and came first overall. Um, and it's just gone on and on and on and on. And I won't lie, it's not been easy. Um, um, it's it was sort of like loops, and then I have done some A to B's, which scared the jizzles out of me because I can't navigate. My favorite one's probably the canal races. Believe it or not, you can't really get lost on them, but I did. um you think you're staying close to water all the time, you're not. There is bits where obviously there's long bridges you can't go under, blah blah blah, but yeah, I still did get lost for a little bit. But the first one I come third female, which was the Grand Union, which was amazing. I love the Grand Union. Then I done the Kennet and Avon. I came first female and broke the course record on that one. And Liverpool to Leeds, I came first female. And obviously, because I done all three, it's classed as a slam. And I came second overall in the slam and first female in the slam. And I have the lowest time overall on the slam female. So, and those were my last sort of really proper. Oh, and gosh, I missed out my 48-hour run. That was quite early on. I'd done that for charity. I did a 48-hour track race. Just had a bit of a jolly on that one. That was no pressure. That was a jolly running around 400-meter track, meeting people, having a ball. I was, and I won that. First female, first overall, and I don't know how I done that, but yeah, I was quite yeah, that's probably my claim to fame. Probably what sort of highlighted ultra running for me because that was before I'd done any of the A to Bs or any other real ultra. I think that's even before. No, it was after Reading, just after Reading when I come second female. Um, but yeah, it ultra running teaches you a lot about yourself and even in the highs and the lows. On a marathon, you tend to be mostly on a high or mostly on a low. On an ultra marathon, it's just a big way, up and down, up and down. And it's dealing with the ups and the downs all the time. And you learn that because you learn who you are, because you have a long time on your own. You can only wind yourself up or tell yourself off. Thousands of times I've told myself off for thinking negatively or g myself up to keep myself going, and you learn that. I think on ultra running I have learned that massively.
Yeah. That is incredible. I mean, to be honest with you, Shell, I've just been listening to this, and I obviously with some of your accolades and some of the races you've done, I mean, it is amazing, obviously. But combined with what you were saying there about the chemo and about the arthritis and all of this stuff, and I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, because that is absolutely pure inspiration. And as I said to you earlier before we started recording, that's why I do these because something like that shows people as cliche as it sounds, never to give up and all of this type of thing. And it shows people what's possible because people have physical pain, mental pain, people have different issues. But a lot of times, and you probably see this, people complain about trivial things really, and they sometimes they let trivial things stop them. Whereas something like that with yourself, I mean, with the chemo, well, I've met people going through chemotherapy, and well, I don't think I can do that one justice with words, but even with the arthritis and pushing through the pain of that, it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'd like to take this opportunity to get your advice on, it's quite a big question, this, but basically the question is, if there's people out there listening to this and they're going through a hard time physically or mentally or both, because obviously the body and mind are very connected. And I know you fundraise, I believe, for mental health as well.
Yeah.
So, these type of things, as I say, it's quite a big question, but what would your advice be for those people to actually push through that and keep going and not give up, basically?
Do you know what? My biggest thing are my whys, and um, I rely on my whys. And then you can Z, which is sleep with peace of mind. So always go back to your whys, why you're here, why you're feeling like this. These are genuine thoughts. And as much as that why might be, I have anxiety, etc. But then, why have you got anxiety? Because that's me. That's me. That's okay. We have to accept who we are. And I'm not perfect. I still moan about trivial rubbish, I'm not going to lie, but there is something in all of us that makes us stronger. And whether that is, mine is, I think, proven to myself that, RA is not going to stop me. It will one day, but not today. Hopefully not tomorrow. But there is a why to everything. And as much as there is a negative why, you can, if you look for it, there is a positive why. Whether it's on the back of that or a different why. So let's concentrate on the good why, not the bad why. Or just comparing your whys. You know, why don't I want to do a trail race? Because it makes me anxious. But then I'm good at it. So it evens out, and we all need that even kill somewhere. And once you find it, it's something you can relate to and put in your whys, and then get that Z at night, a peaceful Z.
I like that. I love that. I love the Y and Z, but I love the meaning behind that as well. Because even going back to what you said earlier about your mum and everything, which I must admit is quite touching, by the way, listening to that. I mean, doing this, I to keep a straight face with these things, but sometimes people say things you really feel that. But even the why with what you were saying there and how you use that to honor her memory and everything, if you don't mind me saying that, I think is wonderful.
Mm,
I think that
thank
I
you.
think there's an old saying of the person who has a why to live for can bear almost any how or something like that. In other words, it doesn't matter what it takes to get there, as long as you have the reason why you're
That's
getting.
right.
I think it's super valuable to find a purpose in life. And that's really, see, I knew there were some really good life lessons. And for our audience as well, for a moment, guys, you don't have to be an ultra runner to apply that. I mean, you can apply that if you interested in running, that's fantastic. But even if it's something entirely different, you can apply that. So, Shell, that is beautiful. And as I said, that's why I do these. Now, I have to ask a couple of other things here, not to dwell on this too much, but when you're running with the arthritis and you obviously have come off the chemo and all this type of stuff, I mean, is it just hurting you like the hot poker thing all the way through? I mean, because ultra races rather are painful anyway, but then you've got the added factor, you know?
Um, it's hard to, I think I'm almost used to it. I say if I keep moving, I'm okay. It's when I stop, um, that, I don't get DOMS. I get joint ache because it's then they've like just frozen and then it's getting them moving again. And sometimes I think maybe that's a little bit old age, but it probably is the RA, but you just get used to it. And I think also because my immune system is battered by all the running, I think it keeps the RA at bay a little bit. It does help. Well, it helps me. And not, not to point that, I it's not the same for everyone. And I do kind of feel I kind of guilty that I can still run with the RA. I know a lot of people that have to have walking aids and everything else, and not so I count myself as incredibly lucky. Um, I like I said, I kind of feel guilty for being able to run, and I try not to um, dwell on my RA or tell other runners too much about my RA because there's people out there that count, and it's does that make sense?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, it's something. There's two sides to the coin with that, aren't there? Because as I've already said, there's the inspirational side of you showing people what's possible and all this type of thing on that side. But then there is the flip side of some people can't walk and can't do even simple things, and I've come across that as well. Um,
The thing is, with that, the thing that made me think that way is someone said to me, "Can you imagine how much better you'd be if you didn't have RA at running?" And I'm like, "What?"
yeah,
That 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 hit me, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, am I sort of like showboating, because I have RA?" I felt really,
I
and
don't.
it's weird.
So sorry to cut in. I don't think you're showboating. I don't think it rubs any salt in the wound for people necessarily who can't run. I mean, my personal opinion, obviously you have to decide this for yourself because you're the one going through it, but my personal opinion would be that it focuses more on the inspirational side and you show people the lesson. Yes, there are people who can't run and they're much more limited, but then at the same time, there's probably something else they can do. If they can't run, they can walk. If they can't walk, they can draw. If they can't do, they can do. I mean, I had where I used to live in Wales, a guy as my neighbor who had multiple sclerosis, and he could virtually not walk. He could stand up holding on to like a walking frame and sort of shuffle forward. And he did a thing for so many miles. I can't remember how much it was walking, like when that Captain Tom was doing the walking around his garden around that sort of time. You look at that and you think, okay, he could barely walk. People like that have every reason to be bitter and to feel a certain way about
Mm.
it. But then by you running, my personal view on it is then even if they can't run, you could still show them, yeah, okay, but you don't have to be laying in bed. You might be able to get up and shuffle. You might be able to, or even if you are laying in bed, you could write something, you could blog about something, you could do something like this I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but the people have more in them. And personally, when I'm looking at you and when I'm listening to this story, I think you have that real sort of shining light quality of, okay, more is possible than what we think it is with this. But then again, I mean, it's my view on it. I mean, different people would say different things. You're very down to earth about it and very humble about it. So I definitely wouldn't say it rubs anything in for anybody. But Shell, I hope you continue to share the message about that in that sort of down to earth way because I do think it really helps people. I mean, who would have thought running all that pace with um rheumatoid arthritis is even possible? I mean, some people have never even conceived of that. So that's my view on it. Um, the last couple of things, and we'll wrap this up shortly, but I wanted to ask you as well about, about your future plans, because you said earlier about, getting lost and everything. And I must admit, I mean, going out there, it's incredibly brave, not only to run the distance, but the navigation and the self-sufficiency and so forth, uh, that you have to have. But road running, you said, is where you'd like to focus on from this point forward. Can we talk a little bit about that, please, as well?
Yeah, it's just mainly the navigation thing for me. I'm still maintaining ultras. I have I have a few races, but one is a 24-hour. So it's not really a race, it's just seeing how many miles you can do in a 24 hours. And I've also got backyard ultra booked this year, which I kind of like. They're just good fun. I love them. They really make me happy. That's my happy place. I'm not the greatest at it, but it does make me happy. I have a jolly on them. But I do have a 500 miler next Sunday. I'm starting, but that's just me. So I'm attempting FKTs, so world records in the running world per se. Um, so I'm running Lonlas. So I'm running from Cardiff to Holyhead and then Holyhead down to Chepstow. So they're both Lonlas routes, but obviously the others are an alternative. So, I'll be doing them back to back. So they're approximately 250 miles each. Yeah. So, and
Where else in the world? I
and
mean,
that's on a path. That's on a cycle, like the shared paths with Sustrans. So, yeah.
there's no class where you can just be chatting with someone and then, they just casually come out with, oh, by the way, I'm running 500 miles next Sunday. I mean, as you do. Yeah, I mean, some people will, I don't know, they'll watch the football, they'll, jog. I mean, but running 500 miles, why not? Why not? But, well, in that case, best of luck with it then, with
Thank you.
steps. And I mean, yeah, adapting the type of thing you want to do and doing it your way, your authentic way. I love that, because it's one of the things that's cool about ultra running is it is a very individual thing. So, if some people like trails, some people like roads, people do it for different reasons. You can have different people in the same race, but physically, but mentally, they're all running their own race, for different
Absolutely. Yeah.
you said about your why, and I love that. Um, the depth of meaning behind that. So the last thing, as I'll have to go shortly, but the last thing, I just want to put this out there. People who want to get involved in what you do, whether it's with the fundraising side of things, whether it's just um, jumping on your social media and getting involved in the races, because you are famous now, Cher. You may not realize it, but
I don't know about famous.
well, well known and respected. Let's put it that way. I think that's a fair appraisal. But however you look at it, you're getting some good exposure, and rightly so. And I think that's well deserved. And I do sincerely mean that, by the way, because of
Thank you.
why behind what you're doing, as we've been talking about, not just literally what you're doing, even though that's amazing. But anyway, but back to the question is basically how can people get involved, join in, contribute to the fundraising, or follow your next steps, basically?
Yeah, so basically, you can go on my social media. So I'm Chelle White, Chelle, and White, spelled like the colour. Or on Instagram, I'm Little Runner Chelle. Um, you'll be able to track my 500 miles because I will be wearing a tracker. If you want to come run with me for a few miles, that's fine because I'm classed as supported, so I can have people run with me at various points. Or even just sort of rock up and say hi and buy me a nice lolly if it's hot. um, and also I'll have my links there for the Just Giving pages because I'm running for Big Moose Charity and Sush Trans. Sush Trans obviously because they keep all these paths clear and safe. They light them. They've made them accessible for wheelchair users, prams, so you can walk, cycle, pram it. Wheelchair users use it. It's all been done. So now it's classed as shared path, not just a national cycle network. So I'm raising funds for them to carry on their great work. Big Moose Charity is obviously mental health charity based in Cardiff, and they're amazing. So those links will be on my social media and the link for tracking as well. And that won't go live till I think I get the tracking information on Saturday, so I'll post it on the Saturday before, and then I start Sunday morning approximately 4:30, daylight really, because I want to make as much done in the daylight hours. I will be running through the night, but luckily it's just following paths that are well signposted, thanks to Sustrans.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will say to our audience, everyone, you heard it here first. Get involved any way you can. Amazing charities, amazing reason behind it. So please do contribute to that. And anyone listening, please do contribute to what Cheryl is doing. But also, I hope that some of you people listening to this, watching this, will take away from this that a lot of the things that you think are your limits are only your own self-created limits, let's put it that way. No judgment, I've been there as well. But people like Shell really show what's possible in life. So, Shell, I mean, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on. But not only that, a big thank you for being an open book as well. And I know we've probably only scratched the surface with this, but basically I had two aims with which was some fun stories from your races, which we've got, and the inspiration and the motivation, which we've got. So very, very happy with that. And just, yeah, thank you again so much for your time.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So, you enjoy the rest of your day. I will release this over the next couple of days, hopefully across the weekend. I'll get this out there. I'll send it to you when it's ready, so you can also use it for well, anything. I mean, basically, I hope it helps just to raise a little bit more awareness. Even if a handful more people find out about what you're doing from this, then we've done our job. But thank you so much for sharing such an inspirational message, and I've had fun. I hope you have as well, to be
Bless
honest.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.